Sure, I can comment on your game. It looks like you are playing a game of chess on chess.com, and it is the beginning of the game. Your opponent is named PVM 666, and you are playing as the white pieces. Is there anything specific you want me to comment on?
Comment on Hindi.
Okay, I can see the game has progressed a bit. You've moved your pawn to e4, your opponent responded with e6, then you moved your d-pawn to d3, followed by your opponent moving their pawn to c6. You then moved your h-pawn to h3, and lastly, your opponent moved their h-pawn to h6. Is there anything specific about these first few moves you'd like me to comment on?
Comment on in Hindi language only.
Okay, I understand that you want me to comment on your game in Hindi only. However, I am unable to respond in Hindi. I can only respond in English at this time. Would you still like me to comment on the chess game in English?
Yes, please.
Okay, I can continue to comment on the game in English. It looks like the game has progressed further. You have moved your knight to f3 and your opponent moved their pawn to b4. Is there anything specific you'd like me to comment on regarding these moves?
No. Now explain in Marathi.
Okay, I see the game has progressed. Both you and your opponent have captured pawns with your bishops. Your bishop is now on b2, and your opponent's bishop is on a3, and you have now captured your opponent's bishop. I understand you would like me to explain it in Marathi, but I am unable to speak Marathi at this time. Would you like me to continue commenting in English?
Yes, please.
Okay, the game has progressed further. You moved your pawn to d4, your opponent responded by moving their pawn to c6, you then moved your knight to xc6, your opponent then moved their pawn to dxc6, and finally you moved your knight to f3. Is there anything specific you would like me to comment on regarding the current state of the game?
Now explain in French.
Okay, I can see the game has progressed even further. You have castled, and your opponent has moved their queen to d3. I understand that you would now like me to explain the game in French, but I'm sorry, I can only respond in English at this time. Would you still like me to continue commenting on the chess game in English?
Yes. Please give me suggestion
Okay, I
regarding
can
my
see the
game.
game has progressed again. You have moved your bishop to b3, and your opponent has moved their bishop to b5. As for a suggestion, it might be helpful to develop your pieces and control more of the center of the board. Do you have any other questions or need other suggestions?
No.
Okay, I understand. You have now moved your pawn to d4, and your opponent has moved their pawn to c4. Is there anything else you would like me to comment on, or any further suggestions you need?
No, only comment on my game only.
Okay, I will just comment on your game. It looks like you have moved your pawn to e2. The board is becoming more open, with pawns in the center, and both sides developing their pieces. Do you want me to comment on specific moves or just the overall situation?
Overall situation.
Okay, I will comment on the overall situation. You moved your pawn to e2, and your opponent moved their pawn to b4. The board is becoming more open, with a few pawns in the center, and most of both sides' pieces are developed. It looks like an interesting position where there are possibilities for both sides.
Please continue. Hello.
Hello. It seems that you have moved your pawn to c2. Your opponent has captured a pawn on e4 with their knight. You then moved your knight to f3, followed by your opponent moving their pawn to e. I can see you've moved your rook to e1, and that seems to be your latest move. You've also moved your knight to f3, your opponent moved their pawn to e5, and you moved a pawn to b4. Do you have any specific questions about the game you would like me to answer?
No. Comment on my game only.
Okay, I understand. It looks like your opponent has moved their bishop to b5. You have developed most of your pieces, and your opponent is still developing theirs. But you should be careful because your opponent's queen has some influence on the board. Is there anything specific you want me to comment on?
Yes. My rook.
Okay, I see. You've moved your pawn to e5. Now, your opponent's king's knight is attacking your bishop. Are you planning on moving your bishop?
No.
Okay, I see you've moved your king's pawn to f4, your opponent moved their pawn to jung5, you moved your bishop to e5, and your opponent moved their knight and captured your pawn on b4 with the knight. You then moved your knight and captured the pawn on f6. The position is getting more open. Do you have any specific questions about the position?
Who will win? White or black?
Okay, it looks like you moved your pawn to h5 and your opponent moved their pawn to c5, followed by you moving your queen to d6. It is difficult to say who will win at this point. White seems to have a slight edge in development, but black has more space in the center. It will depend on who plays more precisely.
What is the next move of black?
Okay, the next move for black would be to move their queen to either f6 or g6. Which would be the best move depends on what strategy black is planning to use, but both would be good moves. Is there anything else I can assist you with?
No, continue with commentary.
Okay, I can continue with the commentary. It looks like your opponent moved their rook to e1, you responded with your king to h2, and your opponent is now in check. You've also moved your pawn to h5, your opponent moved their pawn to c5, and you moved your queen to d6. Okay, it seems like you moved your bishop to e5. Your opponent captured your bishop on e5 with their knight. Is there anything specific about this move you'd like me to comment on?
Yes, my game.
Okay, I understand. It looks like you moved your king to h2, your opponent put you in check and moved their knight to e5, and then you captured the knight with your pawn, followed by your opponent moving their pawn to d8. Your opponent then moved their pawn to c7, placing you in check. Is there anything you'd like me to comment on specifically?
No, I won.
Okay, congratulations, you won the game by checkmate. You had 2 great moves and 5 misses in your game. Would you like to review the game or start a new match?
No. Please review my game right now.
Okay, I understand. You would like me to review the game. The game was a blitz match, with the white pieces being played by you. You had 2 great moves, 5 misses, and no blunders. Is there anything else you would like to know about the game?
Please explain the great moves.
Okay, I understand that you would like me to explain the great moves in your game. However, I cannot provide the specific moves as I don't have the ability to see the exact sequence of moves that led to those moves being considered great by the system. Would you like me to provide an alternative form of analysis?
Yes, please.
Okay, I give you an alternative analysis. Based on the game summary, you had 2 great moves, which likely means you made some surprising moves that put you at an advantage or helped you to win the game. You had 5 misses, so there were likely 5 different situations where you could have made a better move, but overall you had a good game as you won. Is there anything else you'd like to know?
No, thank you.
Okay, I can see you are now on the analysis page of the game. You can see all the moves of the game, including the initial moves that you made, and the evaluation of each position. Is there anything in the analysis page you would like me to comment on?
No, thank you.